Hello, welcome to Ideas for Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana for December 28th, 2020. This is my reflection as we entered the new year 2021. I'm still working to have Nikita, Lon, and Matt join us. We just have to find a place where all four of us can meet, though, because just due to the current rules that exist for COVID, we can only have one guest per apartment, and a lot of places like Northside Library in Kenosha, the conference room still isn't available due to COVID, as well as I'm not sure about Parkside, but I'll be able to check when the winter room ends. So probably about February, we'll see if we can do something from UW Parkside in one of the conference rooms there. Something I'd like to mention, sometimes, and I just wonder if people think about how we did our shows on WIPZ, because when we moved to Sunday, we didn't change the way we did our shows. It just changed basically sometimes some of our source material because, for example, Lon and I are avid readers of the Chicago Tribune. Lon reads the Tribune early in the morning, about 5 a.m., and I read it. Actually, I read it online like about 4 a.m. And what we do though is I sort of like the business section. Lon likes page one. Lon was telling me today about one article we saw in Evanston about housing reparations for basically African American homeowners due to using the so-called marijuana tax to have some of the funding go to African American homeowners and encourage more African Americans to own homes in Evanston. I think this is a good idea about encouraging diversity because when I was in Evanston, sometimes I saw basically a lot of creative things down there, a lot of other things, but I also saw some things where you could really see where the divide of Evanston was. When you went down to a certain street that's a little bit south of Main Street, closer to Howard Street, you'd see how people who really are just barely making Evanston live, bars on the windows and other things, and it's a great contrast compared to the condos on Chicago Avenue where I visited a friend in that. So, but the thing is, what I did, which was I think different than some people did down there, is after a while I wanted to see the whole city. So one day I took a bus and I took bus 92. I got off, took bus 92, caught it on Davis Street and goes up, goes along, comes down, and it goes through this one area of Evanston where most basically a lot of Evanstonians don't want to think about, but it's where people who are just making then passes by Evanston High School and goes on Howard out to basically West Evanston by where it borders Rogers Park and goes out to the former Rust-Oleum plant where it's just now Best Buy and a Jewel, because I was heading out there to look for a new computer and also just to shop a little bit at Target to see what it's like out there. But even when I did shop, it's interesting. I shopped at Target, and the manager saw me, and basically I went along, and everyone just kept wondering about, well, is that trans woman? And finally one of the younger clerks, thankfully, said, yes, she is a woman, and please don't keep outing her. It makes her uncomfortable because she can hear you, and she's trying to find something in her size. She is a big woman and tall, so basically she's hoping we carry big and tall. Best thing you could do is, if you really want to do something, just help her show her what we have in big and tall, so basically she doesn't walk all frustrated. And they did have a nice big and tall selection. I did pick something up, and they did have a Starbucks. I had a Starbucks coffee, and and then I went over to Best Buy and looked at the computer, and the one guy I talked to really knew his stuff. He was a good African American, a gentleman. He really, I told him, I said, well, I'm looking for a computer that's, that has plenty of memory, is able to do video, some games, and and other things, but basically, I like to get something, that's, basically just, under 2,000, but, something that's powerful. It's not going to, go or just, gas or something. So I understand what you meant. So we picked out a good one. I tried it. He at that time he tried to earn credit for me to get it. He did his best. He ran the computer and even called up trying to call up on the phone saying, well, such and such. I'd recommend, doing this. She looks like a good person, and just ran a little trouble, and he really went to bat. I mean, basically, if I was down there again, I'd stop by and just buy other things from there, But the thing is though, reason why I'm mentioning this in the introduction is because there's a book. I saw an interview on To the Contrary with Irby, and she is interviewing Selin Davis, author of the book Tomboy. And Tomboy talks about not necessarily gender goals, but basically, what are perceptions and other aspects of journalism, or trying to get away from journalism in society even today. I mean, she brought up the thing about the G.I. Joe dolls versus the Barbies, and even when I grew up, though, basically, just to give an example, I was raised in both Wauwatosa and Kenosha, and Wauwatosa at that time was an upper middle class suburb equivalent to Lake Forest, Illinois. And we were very open-minded because we actually had a factory going. We had Briggs and Stratton, and we had Harley Davidson, and basically, even at that time, if you were seen playing with a G.I. Joe doll, they'd say, well, what are you? Are you one of those, or such and such? And the most telling part came about the concepts that Davis mentions in the book as something that my parents did early with I and my sister. Basically, they never enforced strict gender roles, basically male, female, because my sister was a tomboy and I self was I don't know if I Jane girl or something. But what happened was, to give an example, I and a friend, what happened was in those days, we had Saturday morning cartoons. So basically, just like in the 70s and 60s, how toys were gendered, Saturday morning programs were gendered. Like on one channel, there's the Banana Splits, which all the guys watched, and in the other channel, there was Josie and the Pussycats and Sabrina, which all the girls watched. And one day we came home from summer camp, and we arrived a little bit early for our parents to pick us up. So basically, they set up 2 rooms, 1 room for the girls, 1 room for the boys, and turned on the TV because it's a Saturday morning, and turned the girls' TV on to the girls' programs for Saturday morning. The guys, what happened, I and a friend, we, at that time, as guys, we were put in the guys' room, and what happened, we noticed that the girls were watching the programs we watched. So we walked over to camp counselors and we just said, well, is it okay if we go over to the girls' side, because they're watching the programs we watch? And one of the camp counselors looked at us like, what? Really? You don't want to see you want to see that soft stuff? Well, yeah, we watch that all the time. Do your parents know? Yeah, they encourage us. Yeah. So, and then that camp counselor said, oh yeah, sure. And we walked over, and basically a lot of girls were happy to see that. Basically, it's, it wasn't all toxic masculinity, toxic macho, and then afterwards, basically, what happens? A few of the camp counselors went to talk with both our teachers, and both the teachers said, yeah, in our classrooms we don't encourage strict gender, we encourage a mixing, and stuff like that. And it's wow, and that was something big at that time. But this goes back to Selin Davis's book, though, about sometimes how gender can be forced, and sometimes how basically it does depend sometimes on culture, because sometimes, like she mentioned in one instance, where young women were raised in the projects. they had to become a tomboy to become tough because basically to survive the gang activity. I could see that they had to learn how to punch, kick, also learn how to basically talk with some of the gang members. So basically, they provided a strong growl to keep them away. In that though. And in other cases, I can see where basically is mentioned about in some cultures where some people basically that were from cultures that didn't have that felt that basically being a tomboy or mixing genders was a luxury that other social economic cultures didn't have. And however, I did like to quote mentioned in the introduction in a book from one woman written in 1898, expressing even back then the need, and the basis of being able to move past, strict gender roles, because I think it's important. You don't always, and just because someone's moving, or mixing, doesn't mean that basically, they may be trans. Because she also brings, that's an important idea she brings up. There is a difference between being trans and being a tomboy or a Jane girl. And I use those terms basically just out of common reference. I know there's a different way to express it, and I need to study more as to. That's why when I can, I will go over the Barnes and Noble and pick up a book to sort of get myself up to date on the terms, because it's a changing thing. Because even when I and friends basically go out to LGBTQ meetups and in meetings, sometimes we'll meet someone and and just based upon at the time that I was raised and a friend, because basically I'm close to basically 60 years old, not there yet, but close. Well, basically at that time it was him or her, Mr., Ms., or Mrs. So when I see someone, I say, well, hello, nice to meet you, and then, but sometimes I use just pronouns, she or he, or like I mentioned before, and then basically I and others will be told, well, really my pronoun is a them or it, and for I understand for those who are in their 20s and 30s, that's it's quite regular, and this doesn't cause a moment to think. But for my generation, it does a little bit, because basically we're thinking back to even regarding the strict doctrination of male and female, but also at that time the strict use of English, basically person, place, or thing. So it's like we have to think, okay, well, it's a person, but they're using a pronoun that describes the thing. And so again, even a fluidity of what we consider parts of speech. And so I'm getting comfortable with it. But the first time someone encounters anything new, it does take time, and I try to keep I keep an open mind as much as possible. And but it's just even with friends that I know that basically are 20, I have to say, well, please, sometimes just be patient. Just if I seem confused about this, just gently explain it to me, because sometimes I'm not able to keep up on all the current different things in culture like that, especially during this COVID, where it's a little bit hard to meet with people and talk with people over coffee and that though. But just to give an example, though, with coffee, though, one friend actually bought me a cup from Barnes and Noble, and it says actually book nerd, which is, I showed it to another friend. She says, yes, that's what you are. You are a book nerd. And, you have your cup of coffee and that, though. And, and the thing that's interesting about with discussion of gender tomboy and other things is I'm glad to see that this is moving forward, because even like when friends and when we watch classic movies or classic sci-fi, we see even like when you watch Star Trek, you see like the original Star Trek, you see some progressive ideas, but you still see some of the old stereotypes because many. I don't. I want. I just like to pose the questions to the listeners and those viewing who watch Star Trek. How many still remember that in the first pilot episode, Star Trek had two pilots. In the first pilot episode, um, the first officer was actually a woman and she wore pants. How many people actually remember that? But then when Star Trek was about ready to go on TV, they had to make a second pilot where basically the first officer was Mr. Spock, and the officer that played the first officer in original pilot became Nurse Chapel, and she wore a blonde wig and a very short dress, as did all the other women officers at that time. So basically, away went the pants. The pants didn't return actually until Star Trek: The Next Generation, and that was actually a jumpsuit that was worn. And let's see, basically, um, pants for women didn't really become fully functional until Deep Space Nine not Enterprise, but Voyager. So it took a while. It took to about the 90s to do that. And even for men to get away from the strict gender roles, because basically in the 90s they started to have women captains in the series and other things. And as one person pointed out at the time of Star Trek, when Next Generation was in the Navy, actually, there actually was a woman captain of the carrier Enterprise. So basically, the Navy was ahead of everybody at that time as far as gender diversification, and also allowing everyone to show the full ability in that, though. So that was a good way to demonstrate it by actual practice. Another topic I'd like to go on is, sometimes, I just wonder if those who listen to us on WIPZ wondered how we prepared the show. Well, I got into this in the beginning, but what we used to do was basically Lon, Nikita, and I, we each would read different journals and study different things. Like Lon and I would read the Tribune and the Kenosha News. Also, when the show moved to Sundays, we would actually watch Startup, To the Contrary, and gather some ideas from there to talk about the show. When we're on Mondays, we used to all listen to 60 Minutes to sort of develop a fusion as to what to talk about with our reflections of 60 Minutes. And sometimes people accuse us of not having a script. Well, we actually had a non-script. What happened was we made talking points. We didn't want everything just to be like you could read it off a teleprompter. We wanted talking points, so basically we could bounce ideas off each other and do different things. And sometimes, it did seem a little bit like Monty Python's Flying Circus. And that's why sometimes I had to quickly sort of go for a break or something like that, though. But the thing about our format of the show is where we did a few minutes of talking, a few minutes of music, a few minutes of talking, a few minutes of music is, well, the reason why we did that is it's a fortunate accident. When I started the show for the first year and a half, it's just me. I did the show at 11 o'clock, and I'd arrive at Parkside, like about 10 o'clock, just basically to get comfortable and just sort of go over my notes as to what I was going to talk about, and what I do is basically just talk and go for about 45 minutes straight, literally. But one day, basically, I was talking, and I just realized I had to take a break. As the urge had come, I needed to take a break to use the facility. So I sort of put some music on, and then what happened? I thought, well, basically, that was done. So I go back and finish the second half. But then another need to use the facilities, and I put it on break, and and then so basically I did talk music, 3 times, and well, afterwards, when I left the studio, I heard a group of students. They're talking among themselves. They're talking in Parkside, and Sonez has a big echo. So when people talk, you can hear what they're saying. And they say, "Oh yeah, Diana had a great show today. She did a little music, did a little talking, and she really has a good time." And I mean, and that's what gave me the idea, because basically there's a good balance. And then when Lon came, we did the same thing. And later when Nikita joined us, we did the same thing as well. The thing though is, we really liked the 11 a.m. time, because we thought basically that was a nice time to do it, because everyone's just getting ready to go to lunch, and good way to nice lunch talk or something, just and a little bit of music in that. But also the 3 p.m. on Sunday was good too, because basically we thought we would reach people that normally don't watch football and are interested in other things. The one thing though is what we always insisted upon, even in both time changes, is we always did a live show, just like what I'm doing now, a live. So if like what John McLaughlin used to say, what was it, from the McLaughlin Group, a live, unscripted news talk show or something like that, and that's what we tried to do too. Because the reason we didn't want a script was because we don't want to get into where basically we're self-editing what we're going to say. We want to basically express ideas, because we know we're disciplined enough to express ideas without basically crossing lines or causing issues. For example, at the studio, we used to have each chair, where each chair was, we used to have, there's a little card, and it had the 7 words from George Carlin's joke that you can't say on radio and TV. And what happened whenever we had a guest, we always have pointed out to him, you can't say this, you can't say that, and it's from the album Class Clown, and literally every the guests we had, everyone understood that, and the reason why they put cards on, because Parkside, since it's a student radio station, I can understand. When I was a student, and also Lon, Nikita, at our time in the late 70s, early 80s, basically there was more free speech, and people did say, like, colorful expressions, as Spock would say in Star Trek. In Star Trek 4, when they came, Star Trek 5, when they came back to Earth, to save the whales like that, and Spock may have been like 1 blank minute, Captain, and and but there were the colorful metaphors, and it's just basically just so we could have, and part of the reason why we didn't do tape segments as much as I would like to have people on live, so basically they could be spontaneous and talk and everything. But some guests preferred for us to do tape segments, and we did have 2 tape segments. We did have one with one professor who teaches computer science, Professor Linky, and she gave very great insights into education, and also about computers and other things, and also another one with Quinn, who was in the theater department, and basically giving us a little bit of behind the scenes of what it's like in the theater department, just as you're getting the play ready and trying to get all the costumes ready and everything. Because at Parkside, what they do is they don't necessarily rent all the costumes. They actually make their own costumes and make their own sets, which is a great job that Khalees and Misty do to try to help the students really understand what's like to run a theater company. And they have great plays. During COVID, everyone in the theater has had to take a step back, because basically it's hard to do theater when you can only have so many people gather at a time. Even when you watch Saturday Night Live, basically it's still no audience. And it's just basically the people helping on the set. And, many people, I don't know, some people watching may not realize, but, when they do the weekend news thing, you see like about 10 people, moving the props in place. But, actually there's more than 10 people behind them basically working with the cameras, the technical lighting, and that's why they couldn't have an audience, because New York had a 50 person rule for stage events. So by the time you count all the actors and the technical people, you get close to that. And so, but when we did have the show at Parkside WIPZ, it was wonderful to see that people all the way from Berlin could hear us streaming, and also from the EU, and also that we do have an impact, and that, because part of the show is actually to have an impact for the students as well as basically alumni and others, because one part of the show is we did financial. I would read financial advice from different newspaper articles and comment on it, and the reason for that is because I think in colleges, I really don't think they teach students enough about that. I mean, when I went to Parkside, the economics, just like other colleges at that time as well, it's like back to school. We have professor talk about, well, we're gonna make a widget, and we're gonna get a big factory, and we're gonna get all this money, all this big loan, and we're gonna make this, and and then basically, we should be able to pay back this loan in about 2 years, and keep going with funding and funding. And then Lonnie Dangerfield raises his hand and says, "What the blank is a widget? What the blank does it do?" Well, Mr. Dangerfield, you don't understand business. Yes, I do. I own own a business and have multiple franchisees. And just to give you an example, even if I knew what this widget thing did, why don't you just rent space, rent a small space, and then make sure that the business can go, and you got everything worked out so the business can succeed, and then expand and rent another space, and then once you then open another business and eventually go on franchise. Well, Mr. Dangerfield, that's too complicated for someone to understand. Well, not for me. I just had 1 year of college, and I was able to do it, and I read and studied. And well, see, what his point is this. What he was trying to say is about basically financial planning that many college students don't really get versed in unless their parents actually teach them. Namely, is yes, you can get credit. I mean, when you're young in college, basically, you can go out to some places and say, "Oh yeah, here, we're going to give you this amount of credit for your business, and here, yeah, you can have this. Just put your idea up as collateral. Put up your patent or put up your copyright as collateral, and yeah, we'll give you this idea, we'll give you this." But what happens without the lack of financial management, some college students may not know that the amount of money that they're receiving is actually enough to make them fail, so someone can take over the idea. Or basically, even if they do get enough, without the proper financial planning, they think, well, oh, that's okay. That's okay if we have a burn rate. We're burning money and such and such and such and such, and we're not going to business. We're not going value. That's another point they don't teach as well, and that's why we did the financial segments, because Lon and I originally thought, well, we were thinking about when we were in college, and Lon learned the financial segments area as I did, because both of us, when we went to college, we had to, because basically when I graduated, there was a recession in the 80s, and when Lon went to college, he came back. He went into college after serving, and but also he was taking care of his parents. So basically, he had to figure out how to do a bigger family income than most people did at the time. So it was something. And but the thing about the financial planning, though, what we found out though, is we found out a lot of students actually preferred to hear that from us, because when they heard it from the professors, like the professor from back to school, well, you have to consider your principal income uh, amortized by interest rate over a period of years, and then consider your investment as to how much you can get with that. And and well, the point is, it's just when someone so talks about it in financial ease, people zoom out and go, oh, is the lecture done yet? And but when someone says, look, okay, you want to do a business, great. Okay, first thing, who are your customers? Well, I haven't thought that out yet. Okay, you better think that out, sir. Who's your customers? What's your product? Well, I haven't thought that out either. Okay, then the other thing is, well, have you done research? Well, I did all this research, and all this research says, I can do it, or I did this research. Okay, well, you might have done too much research. Try to find something about where someone succeeded. Don't read about. Try to avoid. Because many people write about the failures, but try to read about something where someone succeeded. Then basically, all right. Now, okay, you got your business. Well, how are you going to do it? Are you going to do it from your home? You're going to do it from a 10 by 10. And and that was one of our best segments. We talked about how do you start a business from a 10 by 10, and a 10 by 10 is actually a storage unit. It's like, where people store stuff. You pay so much a month, you store stuff in 10 by 10. And the reason why people do a 10 by 10 is because basically you have your manufacturing facility, you have your office, you have your distribution facility right there. When you order stuff, they can send it right to the place where that 10 by 10 is, and you can put it in there, and you don't have to worry about as many permits or anything else, and just do it, like that. And the thing is, when you think about how many businesses actually started from a 10 by 10, there are many prominent businesses that start from a 10 by 10. Harley Davidson, Intel, others. And the thing what you learn about starting a business from a 10 by 10 is basically, first is, you have to make sure you have enough income that you pay your 10 by 10 rent. Also, you have to have enough income that basically you and who's ever working with you can still do the project, because although you love your idea, you love what you're doing, you still got to consider housing for yourself, food, water, housing, and other things. And and that's what the 10 by 10 gets you to, because basically you realize that basically you have a big enough area, but also got to learn how to use that area, and also keeps your mindset financially that, like, well, yes, we could go out and get a big loan and do all this and put ourselves highly leveraged, and hope that basically we can swim out like this. And maybe you can, but basically what happens though, 10 by 10 says, look, build a firm foundation first, and then basically see how it goes. And the thing about 10 by 10 is basically, if you need to change your business, basically there's not that much to change. Basically you can pivot, you can go like this, you can go way over here, or you could just say, rather than pivot, let's start over here, something else, or start over there. And when we did that segment, many students at Parkside actually appreciate we did that, because we also talked about how you pay your employees. I mean, too, because when you do have employees or contractors working for you, how do you pay them? Basically, what do you pay them by 1099? Do you pay them by W-2? If you pay someone by W-2, then they're full employee, and then you have to pay unemployment insurance and as well as whatever exists with the state code. 1099 means that they're an independent contractor, so they will take care of their own insurance. Own W-2, their own FICA, and other things. And when students heard that, they realized that I thought basically they felt comfortable listening, because we didn't sound like professors. We didn't sound like basically, okay, we're going to quiz you and grade you after this. to see if you get A, B, C, or F. And no, we're just trying to say, try to pick up as much as you can just to get a little bit of an introduction. So when you do think about it, you're not going in completely blind, but not enough to scare someone from not doing it, because sometimes you don't want to scare people, because people do have good ideas, and sometimes they don't know how to do it. But worst thing to do is just try to scare. Say, oh no, you can't do that. You should just work for a company for the rest of your life, and just some people basically they can do it. But the thing is, when they're scared off, then you never know, like that. So. Well, what we're planning to do for Ideas with Diana, like I said, in the future, is we're trying to find a place where we can do a group again with Lon, Nikita, and I, and also with Matt, and that may become available in February, depending on how this COVID vaccine is going, and what happens with the local universities around here. But in many areas, it's still basically just. No, it's just basically closed up or something else like that, though. So it would and I think like with other places too, because I've heard about the lockdowns in Berlin, in London, and well, I hope you guys are able to sort of at least have enough to just sit inside and have some nice food or coffee or something else, just so that you can just sit just sort of hibernate past this, like that, though, because I know how it was here when we've had our first lockdown. We had shortages of toilet paper and other stuff, and it was really people wondering what was going to happen next. And so many of us have learned basically to stock up like we do during the winter. When we shop now, we buy 2 gallons of milk instead of 1, and we stock up with basically cereal and sometimes some frozen food, just like we do in the winter, because basically like when a big snowstorm comes, many of us who've lived were born in Wisconsin or have lived in Wisconsin for a long time, or born in basically northern states, or in villages, basically realize the time to stock up on food is not when the storm's coming, is basically to stock up regularly, have a pantry. So when the storm comes, you just sit back, have a nice cup of coffee, maybe watch a movie, watch Netflix or something, or play a board game or play a computer game, and just enjoy yourself or enjoy your friends with you, and and watch the snow go by. Just in closing, I'd like to mention just a story about regarding snow, though. We're still wondering about when we actually are going to get a first sizable snow, because when I was a student at Parkside in pre-med, just people say, well, debate whether climate change is real or not real, it has occurred. Well, if you ask many people around here, and many and those who aren't really scientifically inclined, and even farmers, yes, farmers, they're an important part of our community too. Some people just say, "Oh yeah, you're talking about ag." No, I don't like to think of it. I think farmers are people; they're not ag. And but when you think about it, just like in the United States, for example, this is going to seem sort of odd, but for many farmers, we actually have to import bees to grow crops. And this was something. If you had told us this in the 80s or in the 70s, they said, "What? Why do we have to import bees to grow crops?" And many people say, "Well, what?" And people back then would know what the importance of bees were to crops, and that bees basically pollinate and allow crops to grow. Without bees, you can't have crops. And it's the same in Europe. I mean, I heard you guys have to pollinate bees. You get a lot of bees from Poland, because a friend of mine who lived in the Netherlands, her father started beekeeping as a hobby, and actually found out it was a very good business for him. And but the other thing about climate change, why I mentioned the thing about snow, is because when I did go to Parkside around this time of year, especially about now, the cross country course that's part of the campus would have a nice base of snow, like about like this. We go get our skis and go out and do like a 3K or do the 3K or the 10K course. And we put the skis like actually sometimes between class we just go out and do a 3K run, when we had time between class and basically. But nowadays, the last few years of Parkside's National Ski Course, it's been dry. If you pick any Saturday or Sunday, there hasn't been really a consistent Saturday and Sundays where you can actually, hey, let's go out there and do cross country skiing. It's been intermittent. And the last big snow we had was about 10 years ago. I was in an apartment, which was an old 4-star hotel converted into apartments, and I was on the 3rd floor, and my sister called me and said, well, did you do any shopping? I said no. I said, well, I just thought I'd do it tomorrow. And said, well, no, you got to go and do it because there's a big storm coming. I said, really? I said, yeah. And so what happens is one few times I actually did do shopping in preparation for a storm, and I'm glad I did, because what happened was my apartment was on the 3rd floor here. This is the street level. Well, snowstorm came, the winds blew and the snow drifted, and it drifted all the way up to the 2nd floor of the building. So basically, if you can imagine a building surrounded by at least 10 feet of snow. The cars were covered, everything else. So what happened when the city came to dig us out and what happened was they had to send people with shovels first to figure out where the cars were, and then they got the plows out and everything. But for 2 days basically everyone just had to sit tight. You just looked out and saw 60th Street, with a few feet of snow over it, and one person said it looked like the day after tomorrow, and stuff. But we had enough. We kept calm. But basically, for many of us, so that was the last big snowstorm. And the last few years, like I said, it's been dry, very little snow. And that's the thing about how you can tell climate change is real. Just look at your local area. Compare things that you used to do 20 years ago that you can't do now because of weather. And however, though, what I'm concerned about with climate change and how it's handled is, people are saying, well, in January 20th, the United States is going to re-enter the Paris Accords, and we're going to do this, and this, and this, and that's great. However, but there are many. There are some countries in the EU that realize that even with the 2015 Paris Accords, they can't meet the 2030 goal, and they're honest about it. So because what happens, the problem is you don't want to make it so draconian that basically you collapse the culture to people in the economy and demoralize them because of basically you if you need to make changes and say, look, we got to extend the date, okay, we'll extend the date. But what happens though, the first point is to make forward progress. This thing about January 20th, we're going to come in and do all this draconian thing. It's like a football team coming up and saying, okay, our offense has the field. We're going to keep throwing 4 long bombs down the field until we get a touchdown. Well, most people, when you watch a football game, American football game, saw a team do that, you probably would see the team lose basically 84-0 because they wouldn't move the ball. The way you do it is basically you do a few run plays, you get a little bit yards here, you do a quick short passes, you get some here. When there is an opening, you can do a slant pass for 20 yards, or maybe you might get a slant pass that goes in touch. But the point is, it's forward progress, little bits, little steps, consistently, and eventually we will reach a synergy where basically we'll find out that our pollution index will go down significantly. But if we keep trying to bomb the ball all the time, pollution is going to go like this because we're going to be falling behind on what we should be doing rather than taking short steps. So my hope for the new year is that basically the adolescence of what occurred during the election regarding like one person saying, well, our team won because Biden was elected and your team lost because Trump lost. And to realize that this is not a football game or a soccer match. It's basically, people voted for President Trump for specific reasons. I'm one of them who voted for President Trump, and my other friends did too. And the primary reason was because basically he did get our economy back, and also he did renegotiate NAFTA, which to many folks, sometimes we wonder about on the East Coast and West Coast if they really understand the impact of a bad NAFTA agreement had on us, because and we've seen in Kenosha and other former auto areas, we have many buildings that are crumbling apart, where basically people used to have middle class income jobs, and also we have many people with skills now that basically um, are wasting away, because basically when they go to try to apply the skills, they're basically sort of beaten out by saying, well, how low will you go? And that's why we voted for Trump, is because he renegotiated NAFTA to the MCA. Like you said, just think of YMCA, MCA, and that is good. And and also for those of us in Wisconsin with the farmers, he also renegotiated with China on the farm bill to make sure that farmers are starting to get reasonably compensated again for milk and cheese and everything else. Some people may think well, with the socialist thinking is, oh no, milk and cheese should be free. Well, or ideas should be free. Well, it costs money to make an idea, it costs money to make milk and cheese, and if people really visit a dairy farm up in northern Wisconsin by State Law 21, they'd find something very surprising. Most of the people up there are very Republican, but they're Wisconsin progressives, and they do have windmills on the farm. They have the wind generators. They actually have computers that control the spraying with the radial sprayer, and they do have auto milkers for the cows. But even with the auto milkers, they realize that the cows prefer the human touch. They only want certain people to put the auto milkers on them. They don't want people who they don't know. So and so basically that's why a lot of people in Wisconsin voted for Trump, because simply that got the economy back for the farmers, made it so basically that they could still stay in business and not go bankrupt or commit suicide. But sometimes we wonder whether people on the East Coast or West Coast, even the Hollywood elite, understand that. And how many of them have actually walked in a farm or actually driven past a farm? I mean, basically, because my grandfather on my mother's side was raised on a farm, and as well as my grandfather on my dad's side was raised on a farm, and that too. So so basically that's why we're a little bit big. We like farm products, milk, cheese, poultry, bacon, eggs. So but my point is, though, we need to realize that the election's over, but we gotta get over this adolescence, because basically President Trump did do some good things, and he should be commended for that Operation Warp Speed, the MCA farm bill, and but the thing is, though, what happens, though, is if we don't work together, then we're going to have another. We may have another tough year if we don't work together in 2021 and put aside our political egos. I mean, I put aside my political ego a very long time ago, very long, because I mean, you're not supposed to say who you vote for, but in the presidential elections, I voted for some Republican presidents. I voted for some Democrat presidents. Even voted for an independent president candidate. So but I did it because basically I did it because of the person and what they said. And I think basically we need to put the political egos aside, and also we got to make sure we get this COVID vaccine out to people faster, more than just because in this area. Walgreens has COVID available for essential workers, but if we really need to take care of this, we need to get this out faster for non-essential workers and high-risk people, 65, or people like me who have disability, and that they'll get it out, as you know, because what happens, first they said we needed a 35 inoculation rate to achieve herd immunity. Now it's been raised up to 90%. Well, if we need to get 90%, we need to get all these everyone vaccinated quicker than March. Well, let me know what you think. I prefer to receive messages on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is Diana1A. And what happens as I check on Twitter, I'll take a look and see what everyone has to say. Well, I'd like to thank you for listening and watching Ideas with Diana. And like I said, in the future, we're gonna try to get the whole gang back together and get the band back together so we can do a full group broadcast, because I really don't like the Zoom thing. I like doing the old studio method, everyone together. So, well, to everyone, I'd like to wish you a happy New Year, and I hope you had a good non-eventful Christmas. I'll talk with you later.